Hello, everybody. Welcome to our special. So, 2020 is coming to a close. Marvel's busy doing King in Black.
Mhm.
DC's about to ramp up with Future State. But we think everyone is wondering what happens after all that.
Yeah,
What happens, past just January and February. So, we've done some research and we put together a bunch of stuff that's coming up in March and possibly even further.
yeah. This is a little factual, a little speculation, some responsible speculation about the future of these things. But
Yeah, so usually this show we're taking pre-orders. Comics from the future, we usually tell you about comics that are about 3 weeks out. They're still open order and you can order them. This show's a little bit different. This is stuff that's even further out, so we are actually not taking orders this time.
yeah,
We don't have to keep up with stuff that's coming out in March and April and such. This is really us just having fun because this is a small week. It's a holiday week, and so Marvel and Lunar and DC and all them, they hardly have anything available for order. So we thought it was the right time to just talk about stuff way out there.
yeah.
So we're going to start with a big one. Everybody's very hyped about Future State. We're hyped about Future State. We might even already have some of it in our hands. But the question is, what's after it? So we have a screen we're going to put on. It's going to cover us up, but I think Andy's going to tell you
You'll
what
understand
it
why.
is. Yeah.
So DC, coming up in March, is launching Infinite Frontier. This is going to be kind of a direct spin-off from Death Metal and from Future State. So what they're really hyping about this is everything matters. So you can see in there we have the next Batman is on there, Yara Flor, Wonder Woman.
Yep.
This is basically saying all of those characters that you're about to read about and everything still matter. And this is much like DC Rebirth or DC New 52, except for New 52 launched with all number ones. This is not. So everyone worrying, oh, DC's just doing another reboot, it's going to start over. This isn't. There's a few books that are getting a number one, but in general, like Batman is continuing on with Batman 106. It's the same creative team. This is more just I don't know. I feel like they do this every so often, a realignment, kind of a new year, new DC type thing. So I think this one is going to be really exciting. We'll get into some of the books that they'll be releasing with Infinite Frontier. There's some really interesting ones that maybe give you a hint about what DC's doing with publishing. I know there's a lot of speculation about what DC is doing with publishing, but I think you'll get a good idea from Infinite Frontier and some of the books we're going to go over with that, what they're going to be doing. So
Yeah,
they're kicking
speaking
it
of which,
off with Infinite Frontier number one. This is much like when they did DC Rebirth. We had DC Rebirth number zero. So this is a little bit of a primer. Marvel has been doing this for years. Marvel has done point one issues kind of at the beginning of their relaunches. They did it with Marvel Now. So this is going to be the first book that comes out with the Infinite Frontier new banner at the top of it. And this is going to show you from the creative teams kind of what the through line through all of Infinite Frontier is going to be. There's always, with Rebirth, we had Dr. Manhattan.
right, he
Was
was
kind of the
the
crux.
prime
Yeah.
mover, the button dropper.
So this one I feel like is going to introduce you to that concept, whatever it may be for this one. We see on this is the variant cover for number one. The A cover is the screen you just saw. It's a wraparound cover.
Around.
This is a extra sized issue, and with this cover, you see Wonder Woman she becomes almost like a god. I know she's kind of
More of a
already
god.
more of a god,
Goddess.
but I feel like she's going to play a very big role in DC
And
going forward.
is that Spectre behind her?
It looks like
I
Spectre.
mean, it certainly is colors and
Yeah, so it'll be interesting to see if maybe she's running up against like Spectre level characters with that power tier level. But this is going to have a main story by Joshua Williamson in it from Flash and from everything. He's one
yeah.
of DC's biggest
Oh
writers.
yeah.
This is also going to have not samples, but kind of issue zero type material for The Yara Flor Wonder Woman series that's going to be starting,
Yep, getting a
and
full
for
series.
Nubia Wonder Woman, which is, you'll see both of them in the Future State Wonder Woman title. So we see those, and we'll be talking about it a little bit later, but the new Joker series
Yep.
is going to have a little bit in this as well, along with some other stuff by some big writers and artists. But this will definitely be your primer issue going into the next year or so. DC tends to do, they were doing about 5 year um, turnaround
Right.
plans, whatever you want to call it. It's now, when was Rebirth? 2016,
16.
something like that. So we've had a few years, about 4 or 5 years
That's
at this
about right, because
point.
it's going to be 2021, so that's
Right.
right at 5 years.
So you can tell these are usually about 5 year plans. And yeah, so this will give you a little hint to what's going to be coming with that. But I'm excited. It's going to be I believe, $7.99 issue, somewhere around there, $7.99 to $9.99,
Yeah,
depending on how many
big
pages.
oversized
A lot of these are
one-shots.
so far out, we don't have exact numbers about page count or prices, but we do know a little bit about the content.
So I'm going over what's going on with Marvel in the future. Right now we're in the midst of King in Black. So what's going to happen after that? I don't know all the answers, but I do know that Carnage is getting his own miniseries. It is called Carnage, Black, White, and Blood. So
That sounds familiar.
familiar, exactly. So Wolverine got his own thing. It's still going on. Wolverine, Black, White, and Blood. And the point of that is to let different writers tell stories outside of the current continuity. They can be stories from the past. They can be things from the present. Anyway, they're doing the same with Carnage. It's going to be written by Donny Cates, Benjamin Percy, and Teenie Howard. It's going to have art by Sarah Pichelli and Ken Lashley. This is beginning in March 2021. So this is going to be a 4-issue thing. Each issue is going to be standalone, and as the name implies, they'll be done in black, white, and blood. The solicitation.
Like old Kiss comics.
Yes, real blood. The solicitation promises that this is going to be a sort of a dark, bloody, not for kids sort of issue. But I mean, when you're dealing with Carnage, if you're not going to defang Carnage, that's how it has to be.
Yeah, exactly.
He's not, Venom's great, but Venom sort of turned into an anti-hero and then pretty much ultimately into a hero. Carnage, no. He's still as much a villain and crazy as he can be. And honestly, I've kind of lost track of where Cletus Cassidy is.
Yeah.
I think last I recall, Carnage got burned off of him. And then I think Norman Osborn thought he was Carnage for a bit. So maybe that'll clear some of that up.
Yeah, definitely with Donny Cates writing one of them. He was the spearhead of Maximum Carnage.
Yeah.
So it'll be interesting to see if he does pick up in his story, because I feel like Donny Cates can't write anything that's not in kind of Donny Cates' world. Like, he loves connecting all of his stuff. So
I think Marvel is fine with that now too.
Yeah, and they're like, do it, and then if you want to spin it off into something, go ahead.
Yeah. So anyway, I think very cool miniseries we can tell you about nice and early. Carnage, Black, White, and Blood.
Next up, we have something that I believe will give you an idea of some of DC moving forward. We do know that DC is dropping the number of books that come out, at least at first. People always freak out about that, but Rebirth did the same thing. They tend to roll them out slowly because you don't want to just dump everything on people. Yeah. They have to decide really fast what they want to get, and inevitably something will be thrown by the wayside. So, but we do know that we had books like Harley Quinn, Supergirl, Red Hood, in particular, just end within the past few months. This is Batman Urban Legends. This will be an anthology series. DC's been doing a lot of those, but this one in continuity, and it will be continuing some of those characters. So they're kind of folding all those characters into one book. There is going to be a Red Hood story, a Batman Red Hood story that kind of continues on where Red Hood, I believe it did issue 50. It'll be continuing on from there. So this is him back in Gotham with Batman. Then we have a Batman the Outsider story, because that series ended. So we're getting characters like the Signal, Katana. All of those are going to be in there. Another interesting one is Grifter. Grifter made his reappearance in Batman recently. and this is supposed to pick up right where that left off.
Yeah,
So,
I keep talking about like Jim Lee's like if I'm staying in DC, my property grifter is going to be a major character.
yeah. So I know some people are going to be upset, like people who really love the Red Hood book. Um, but I think this is exciting. This is going to give people a chance who maybe didn't read Red Hood, because it was at issue 50.
Yeah.
You know, if you buy this because you're wanting to read, which another story that's going to be here is Harley Quinn and Poison Ivy, even though Harley Quinn has her own book
Yep.
coming out, there's still going to be a new Harley Quinn story in here, and kind of about where's Poison Ivy been. But say someone picks it up because they want to read Harley, well, you're going to read the whole book if you get it, and this may introduce some people to some of the characters that, you know, not a ton of people have read The Outsiders with Katana and Signal. So I think this is a really interesting way of doing it. I wouldn't mind seeing this for maybe a Superman version that has, you know, Connor Kent, you know, little backup story, or you know, 14 pages of him. I think this can be really cool. Now this one is $7.99, but if you consider it's actually cheaper than buying all the other ones, maybe it's not as long, but I think you get probably more characters and more content for your money.
I like how far out DC is releasing things like this because I
Yeah,
mean notice Future State hasn't even begun and already this has the Infinite Frontier logo on it. I mean
yeah,
it's done. They got the cover. I think that's cool that they're really trying to think of things far out.
yeah, and I think that's a lot of security too. In like they know where they're going. These stories are planned out. Um, you know, they have meetings. They plan out the whole year, the whole, you know, year and a half or whatever with their ideas. So yeah, like, you know, once we get out of Future State, you know what you're getting into, and I think that's really cool.
Right. We've got some variants on that
Yeah, and
too.
this kind of gives you an idea. So this is the David Finch Red Hood cover, which is one of the main stories in there.
And then we also got this one.
And then Grifter. It's almost like if
Yep.
these were separate books, like, are you reading this for Red Hood or Grifter? You can pick whatever you want your cover to be.
And once again, if you're Jim Lee and you want Grifter to be a more important character, get him on a cover with
Choking
Batman
Batman.
in a headlock.
Yes.
Show that he's a formidable person.
I think it's really cool that Grifter's coming back in here because I think he's a really interesting character when written right. So I'm excited that we're getting, you know, some time with him.
I had forgot about him since like the 90s
Mhm.
when I first read him. You know, I thought he was cool then, but I kind of forgot until I read his issue in Future State.
Yeah.
He has a backup story. I can't remember if it's in Next Batman or Dark Detective.
Mhm.
I think it's in Next Batman. The backup story with Grifter is awesome. Like
Yeah.
I actually am very interested in now as well.
Yeah, and
He's
so
like he's like kind of a more serious Deadpool.
yeah, and he can go toe to toe with Batman pretty well, and they kind of have a mutual respect and everything. So yeah, it's cool.
All right, so getting back to Marvel, here's an interesting one. Demon Days X-Men. Now, look at what it says. Story and art by Peach Momoko.
That's
I
big.
don't know, I emphasize the and because she always says
And
the art. It should have been story and art by Peach Momoko.
okay, there we go.
So this is really cool. It's going to be released quarterly in prestige format. Prestige format is a different kind of binding when usually books are going to be
Mhm.
bigger. And I don't mean like width-wise, but just sort of thicker, more
Mhm.
pages. So I think that's why it's quarterly is it's going to be sort of an extra size book that's not been confirmed yet. But this is interesting. So she's starting up what some people are calling the Momoko verse, and it is her retelling sort of tales about different X-Men characters and other Marvel characters.
Because it looks kind of like Venom's in the background there.
Correct. Yeah, I was gonna get to that. So the main character there, I mean, that's Psylocke.
Yeah.
But this isn't the Psylocke that you know. This is a different version, told in a more samurai sort of tale. And from what I've been reading about it, she's going to run into a new version of Wolverine.
Nice.
You know, it's a retelling though. It's not, you know.
Yeah.
And there's also going to be a Venom, as you can see. And also they said this one of the strongest characters in the Marvel Universe, I would assume Hulk. So I'm really interested in this. I like retellings when they're done in a very different manner like this. I like Kung Fu stuff.
Yeah.
I like samurai stuff. So put all that together with mutants
Yeah.
and the X-Men and have Peach Momoko, you know, pouring everything into it, not just the art, but she has to do the story now too. I've got to check that out.
I think it's really interesting just because I'm glad they're giving her this kind of her own space to work in because her art is so unique. I don't necessarily see it like, oh, she's going to be the next artist on Wolverine or something, and she's got to draw all this techie stuff. I want her doing what she feels comfortable with and what really highlights her style. And she does have that almost like Usagi Yojimbo
Yeah.
feel with this. And I think that's really cool. And I'm sure this is going to be super popular. This is going to be a new kind of definitive take on some of these characters.
And I dare say, I think her style's been improving as
Uh-huh.
well. I've seen more impressive things by her lately than the very
Mhm.
first of it. I think the first things I saw for her were so starkly different; it stood out.
Yep.
But now there's a lot of it. I'm like, wow, this is just cool, head to head with almost anyone. So as far as it's being quarterly, that means it comes out every 3 months. There's going to be 5 issues, so this is going to go on for about a year and 3 months. So every 3 months it'll be like, whoa, another Demon Days. So that's interesting. It seems like they've given her a lot of creative freedom
Mm-hmm.
to do that now that they've locked her down into contract over at Marvel.
Yeah, and that they teased us that she was going to be doing some interior stuff, and I think this is even more surprising than what we thought we would get.
Yep.
So next up, I wanted to talk about Batman 106. Just to remind you that not all the books are starting back at number one. This is James Tynion and Jorge Jimenez continuing on with their Batman story. Jorge is the artist that did all of Joker War. And then we've had a couple of different artists since then. Now he's back on it. That kind of gave him a break to get ahead. And yeah, so if you've been enjoying Batman, it's continuing. It does have the new Infinite Frontier banner, but this is more of what you've been loving. This sounds really interesting because Tynan's next big thing, kind of his first big arc was about Joker and Joker War and all of that. This is going to be focusing on Scarecrow, and he really wants to kind of revolutionize Scarecrow, kind of modernize him a little bit. You can see in the wraparound cover for this, you can see him in the background. He's got kind of like a neon face, like neon lighted face. It sounds really cool, and he said like this is going to be another big story, kind of uh, updating and making Scarecrow for the modern age, which sounds really cool. But the other thing I wanted to note on this is if you see under where it says Batman, it says Robin.
Yeah.
This is going to contain a backup story. We've really been wondering where Robin's been, Damian Wayne, since Teen Titans. He's kind of been off the grid.
He got kicked out of the Teen Titans.
Yeah.
The team he led.
That's rough. So this is going to be a two-part story. One part of it is going to be a Batman, and the other part is going to be a Detective Comics that comes out after this. Which is also continuing its normal numbering. It has a new creative team, but the numbering's continuing. And this is going to explore Damian's kind of done being Robin, and he's going to go find his mom, Talia al Ghul, the League of Assassins. We've seen kind of hints of he's got a new like black and white or black and gray costume. So I think this is interesting, and I think it's cool that there's going to be a backup story in this.
Yeah, I've been wondering even where Damien is in Future State.
Mm-hmm.
I've had fun with Future State. We've gotten to read pretty much all of it early, and to me, the fun is who's the new Batman?
Mm-hmm.
Where is this character? Where's that character? And I honestly don't know where Damien is.
Yeah, it seems like this is definitely on purpose that he's about to have a big story arc that
He's a character that could go villain at some point.
Oh yeah.
He treads that line. I mean, just getting kicked out of the Teen Titans was the things he was doing. He's keeping a secret prison where he was not trying villains and he was not letting them out ever, and that's part of why they kicked him out.
Yeah.
I guess okay. So we're gonna show the variant, but it's a big wraparound. So once again, it's gonna go on top of us.
But you'll see in this kind of like we've got all the characters in play here. With you got Joker and Punchline still in there. You see Red Hood.
Yep.
There's an interesting character next to Joker, which is Tim Fox. I wonder why they're bringing him in there. I don't know. I won't say anything. Then we have Batman. You see Damian there in the front with his new suit. In the very center in the back, he's hard to see, but is Scarecrow.
Mm.
So I think that's really cool. But we also see uh, Ghostmaker,
Yeah.
who is, going to be coming back to play a big part in Gotham. So I think this is cool. This is just kind of a big thing to show. James Gunn has a lot of characters to work with, and he's going to be using them all. They're all part of Batman's family, and yeah,
That he's added to
he's added to.
considerably.
Yeah, yeah. It's funny. You've got kind of got the front cover, and then the back cover is like, and all the rest.
I think it's very telling that Scarecrow, while he's in the center, is way in the back.
Uh-huh.
So that's cool. There is a new Marvel miniseries for Beta Ray Bill.
Yay!
It's about time.
My favorite Marvel character.
And this one's being done by Daniel Warren Johnston. People know him from Extremity, from Murder Falcon. He has that just like art style. That
Wonder Woman Dead Earth was his last
Woman
really
Dead
big,
Earth.
written and drawn by him.
Yeah, so he is both writing and drawing it, and Marvel doesn't really let people do a lot of written and drawn by.
Mhm.
Yeah, here we have Peach Momoko doing one, we got him doing one,
Yeah.
and they're some of the first things they're announcing, so I think that they have a lot of faith in these projects. So what is going on in this? So Beta Ray Bill's Stormbreaker was destroyed by Thor a little while ago, so he has to go on a quest for a new weapon. I think that's a very exciting plot.
Mhm.
They don't add the new weapons to them very often, and it doesn't seem like they're going to bring Stormbreaker back. It seems like they really are, if he completes his quest, going to give him something new, and I think he deserves something new and
Mhm.
awesome. Maybe something he can hit Thor in the face with for breaking Stormbreaker. And who is out on the cover? It looks like a nullified Fing Fang Foom.
I think that's awesome.
Yeah, so this directly follows King in Black. This is not during it. This is going to happen right afterwards. So 5-issue miniseries, Beta Ray Bill, starting in March by Daniel Warren Johnston.
So next up, a book I talked about a little bit before, but Joker is getting his own series. I believe this is the first ongoing Joker title there's ever been. Now there was a mini series.
There was that I think it's like 6 or 8 part one they did way back in the 70s.
It's an idea.
He's never made it to 12 issues.
No, and you kind of understand why. Like, it's hard to watch the bad guy just being terrible all the time, unless you watch, the Joker movie. But that's a different story. And comic wise, but if you read some interviews, this is by James Tynion of Batman fame, and Gilliam March, who did a lot of the art in Batman during Tynion's run. This is just as much a Commissioner Gordon story as it is a Joker story.
Mm.
I think that's super interesting. Now, the Joker has a way more jazzy title than Commissioner Gordon, the book. But this is going to be Commissioner Gordon actually doing some of his detective work, because Joker is now the most wanted person in the world. After Joker War, what he did to the city, he's not just a Gotham problem, he's a world problem.
Yeah.
And this is going to see Commissioner Gordon trying to track him down and kind of play the two parts of what's Joker doing and then what's Gordon doing to try to find him. So I think this sounds really interesting, because they talked about like when DC came to James Tynion and was like, hey, we want you to do a Joker book. And James Tynion's like, I don't know if that works. And then he's like, what would a Joker story to me be? Oh, it would be Gordon hunting the Joker.
Mm.
And I think suddenly with that spin, you've got a story rather than just an evil guy doing evil things.
Yeah, every main character needs their foil. So, if
Yeah.
you're a hero, you need your villain. If you're a villain, well, you need
And
somebody
like, just
hunting
think
you.
about like what all Joker's done to him. Like, he paralyzed his daughter. Like, Gordon's got more than just the job. He's got a personal grudge against Joker. So that's super cool. The other really cool part about this is Punchline has a backup story in this. And it will be drawn by Mirka Andolfo, which is super cool. She did the art in the Punchline one-shot. And while Joker's probably not in Gotham, I think we've kind of seen at the end of Batman and Joker War that he's kind of fled the scene. Punchline is in Gotham, and a lot of people don't think that she should be in jail. So this is going to kind of explore now the new clown in town, if I do say so. But this is really cool because it's showing that Punchline is also here to stay. Like, she's not just a one and done thing. I wouldn't be surprised if this launched her into her own series after this.
Yeah, she's brought up briefly in Future State as well as a villain. In fact, two villains are mentioned. They mentioned the Joker and Punchline.
Yep.
So
very, very interesting. And this one, I think we've got some of the variant covers.
Yes.
So we see here, this is the Matina Punchline variant, which doesn't look like she's turned a new leaf on the cover. Looks like she's still up to her old shenanigans.
Yep.
Love this one. This is the Frank Whiteley variant cover.
Ooh.
Joker with the most bumpy face imaginable.
Oh,
super cool. Really, really creepy.
It's sort of channeling the Jack Nicholson Joker.
It is,
well.
yeah. He's got a more rounded face, still the very big chin, but this is the Mark Brooks variant. Now, do you want to mention about this one?
This is a special variant. So most stores are not going to be carrying this variant because they're making it where you have to order a whole lot to be able to order it at all. We are going to get it. We've determined we're going to get it. So, I mean, Joker book, how often does that come around?
Right, yeah.
So we're going to get all the variants that we can. So sort of early look on this one. You won't find this one on many sites, but yes, this is the Mark Brooks one. All right, getting back to Marvel, America Chavez is getting a new series called America Chavez Made in the USA. So this is going to be a 5-issue miniseries written by TV writer Kalinda Vazquez. She helped write on The Runaways.
Ooh.
So yeah, Marvel and DC, they've been sourcing a lot of TV writers. They've been sort of mixing it up, and I like that.
Yeah,
for these
new
characters,
voices.
For these characters to keep going and seem fresh. Yeah, you can't have just Bendis writing everything.
Yeah.
As good as he is, you gotta spread out. So as stated, it's a 5-issue miniseries. This is going to go more into her past and her powers. She has a very interesting power set.
I don't even know if I could explain it or I know for sure. So.
And I think that's what this miniseries needs to do. So she can fly. She's really tough. She's really strong. But then she has other powers, like she can kick a star-shaped hole into the multiverse.
Yeah.
And go between universes. She apparently grew up in a different universe. It's crazy. I mean, she has a lot of interesting powers that it's almost like they were throwing darts at a dartboard with powers, and they hit some really good bullseyes. And now this writer's like, okay, I got to explain this.
Yeah.
She's already a cool and interesting character, but now people want to know why. How exactly did this happen? So
this is cool. This is also Marvel trying to, just like with what DC's doing, bring in some of their semi-newer characters and flesh them out a little bit, and maybe see them step up into new roles.
Yeah, and her past comics have gone up a ton in value as well. So I think people are definitely ready for more stuff starring her. So 5-issue miniseries starting in March.
So this is something that, like I was talking about before, there are some books getting new number ones. Mainly Harley Quinn. Now, people have been really, really wanting Harley Quinn. They've been like, why would DC cancel Harley Quinn? Is one of DC's most famous characters. Well, Harley Quinn's getting a new number one by the same Stephanie Phillips, who is going to be writing the Future State Harley Quinn, is now going to kind of continue their story, but in a backward sense, kind of how Future State is working, into this new one where Harley is now coming back to Gotham. And a funny idea with this is Harley Quinn basically considers herself Batman's new Robin. To her, they are the dynamic duo.
Oh, boy.
Batman doesn't think this, but how are you going to tell Harley that her delusion of grandeur is not true.
She did pretty well save him in issue 100.
Yeah, so she's kind of earned a spot, um, kind of floating around nebulously around the Bat family. Like she's not 100% villain anymore. She's definitely not 100% hero. I think this is going to explain that further, explore her in Gotham, her relationship with Batman. The artist by Riley Rossimo, who did this cover, he's going to be doing the Future State Legion of Superheroes. Very interesting artist. And I think this sounds really fun. But along with this, there are other number ones. We don't have slides for them, but we do know there's like Teen Titans is continuing, but now as Teen Titans Academy number one, where they the older Teen Titans are starting a school to introduce new characters, creating a new Titans team. Swamp Thing is getting a new number one. Then books like Nightwing are continuing with issue 78, but they do have a new creative team. So this is definitely not rebooting anything. This is, even the new number ones are going to be continuations of the stories so far.
So one thing I noticed about this cover is she has a new outfit.
Yes, new costume for Harley, new redesigned look, which I think that's a very Harley thing to do. Every so often she gets a new iteration, and less. She's getting less and less clown based. She's more of just really pale punk rock person with a baseball bat or a mallet.
and hyenas.
And hyenas, they laugh. So we have the one of the big variants for it, which is the Derek Chew variant, which you do get kind of a better look at her costume in this.
Very shimmery, shiny.
Yes.
Looks like it's leather or pleather.
Probably squeaks when she walks.
Yeah.
Really cool. And then this one, much like the Punchline Joker variant, this is going to be a limited cover.
Yes, the stores have to order a ton to be able to order it all. We are going to get it. This is done by renowned artist Yoshitaka Umano. I first knew of Yoshitaka Umano back when I played the Final Fantasy games growing up. He did the art that surrounded like the instruction booklet and the character designs. I mean, just blew me away when I was a kid. I'm so happy. I know he's done some comics, but not a lot. So the fact they're pulling him in to do covers, I hope DC has him do a lot more, because really, this is a cover to be studied. There's a lot going on in it.
Like at first, I was like, "Why is Harley like smoking like a Gandalf pipe?" And then you like look at the little puffs, and you're like, "Oh, there's a little Batman puff." And what tattoos does she have? And I really hope they do like give this artist a variant cover month. I would love to see a Batman cover. I would love to see a Superman cover in this weird, cool, almost like she could fit perfectly into Final Fantasy like that.
Yeah. Yeah, I've this cover, everyone I've shown it to, which has only been maybe like a dozen people, everyone's really liked it a lot. I mean, the more you look at it, the more it's like, this is something different.
They all pause first and be like, huh, I like it.
So we will have that available. More details coming up. All right, so Marvel is starting their first Alien series. Alien #1. Now, I tried to look into if this was a limited series or not. The information is not out there. They have not said it's a limited series. My bet is it probably is, and here's why. Even though Marvel owns the rights to Alien, it doesn't read like this is going to have Marvel heroes in it yet.
Right.
This is an original Alien tale being told that Marvel is releasing. From what I've read, it has to do with somebody who has survived the previous alien encounter and has been very traumatized by it.
As you would.
Yeah, probably hiding in an airlock for 8 months or something. And they're trying to readjust back into society with the help of a bishop android who is kind of like their only friend, and they're having a lot of trouble. Meanwhile, aliens are going to show up and mess with them again, of course.
They're never going to recover.
So that's what it's supposed to be about. It's by Philip Kennedy Johnson and with art by Salvador LaRocca. So I'm a big Alien fan. I can't wait. But I have to say selfishly, I wish that they'd get the Marvel characters in there too.
I know. This is very much feels like them owning Star Wars and less so Conan, but Star Wars hasn't crossed over with any Marvel anything. It
Yeah.
is its own separate bubble universe outside of Marvel. But I think that's cool. That does leave him the opportunity to do little mini series within it, followed maybe some characters we do recognize, different time periods.
I think they will, because the difference with Star Wars is they didn't do any even cover series of Star Wars crossing over with MCU heroes.
Yeah,
With Alien, they already have.
that's true.
They're doing
Yeah.
that right now. So I think this is just a warm up. But I'm still very interested. More original Alien content. That sounds great to me.
Yeah, and we're definitely thinking we're going to get a Predator one too. It's not going to be long till this universe is. You got an Alien book, you got a Predator book, you got an Alien versus Predator book,
Yeah.
you got all of that. Alien kills the Marvel universe is probably coming,
Yep.
so excited about this.
Okay, I think the last thing I want to talk about is we discussed what's happening after Future State. That has been discussed. But what is happening in Marvel after King in Black? I did a lot of research trying to figure that out, and I have to say, everyone's being mum about it. But I want to bring something up. If you picked up the free comic book day stuff this year, there was an ad at the end of the X-Men one.
Yes, it was X-Men and a little bit Iron Man.
Yeah, and it had this ad for Dark Ages. It was supposed to be a big Marvel event. They even had pages done. Iron Man's flying around.
We loved it. We thought the story in that was awesome.
I don't consider this a spoiler because this came out at Free Comic Book Day. But Iron Man's like flying around, and all of a sudden there's like a sonic boom, and all the power goes off in like the city. In fact, it looks like maybe the world. Iron Man's suit is, obviously deactivated. He crashes and he's in dire straits.
Yeah.
I mean, we're talking like, broken bones, severed limb,
Mhm.
like thing. And it promised by Tom Taylor Dark Ages. Well, this project got sidelined, possibly because of the pandemic. It's hard to say what happened to it. But to me, it's not often that Marvel's going to promote something like this, put it in all their free comic book day things, have pages ready. If they put money on this and they had already greenlit this might be what's going to happen after King
Mhm.
and Black. So this was supposed to be fall 2020. Obviously, it's not. No one has said anything about it. I've read a couple news sources that have said, looks like it's canceled, but we don't know. They're not saying. I don't know. I'm going to go ahead and throw my hat in and say I bet it's not canceled. I
Yeah.
bet that it's coming up eventually. Maybe that is what will happen after King and Black. But think about it, like the Marvel universe redone, where no technology works at all.
Mhm.
So all of a sudden, Hawkeye, he's more formidable against Iron Man.
Yeah.
How does Doctor Doom deal with this? How does Mister Fantastic deal with this?
All the big agencies like AIM and Hydra, they're kind of out of luck. They're all very tech based.
Yeah, yeah. And of course, it's more than just the heroes. What would that do to mankind?
Mm-hmm.
And I could kind of see Marvel maybe saying, during the pandemic, this is too much of a downer. But, eventually they may release it anyway.
That's when Conan comes out and he's like, "I love this. I am now at the top of this."
Yes, King Conan. So that's the last thing we're going to leave you with today. Just sort of some speculation on where Marvel Universe might go after King and Black. So thank you for joining us. We know this hasn't been a normal comics from the future because there was no new comics on this
Yeah,
week's.
you can go on
Final
Previews
Order.
World and look. There's really like Marvel doesn't even have a presence on
Nothing.
there this week.
Yep.
I think a lot of the books that are on there, if you look at the release date, is actually later because they're like trades and stuff, so they're solicited a little bit forward. But yeah.
So we thought instead of leaving you all high and dry, that we would do a story about things coming up in 2021. And I think there's a lot of really cool, interesting things. So I hope you enjoyed the show. We will see you back next Friday, as we always do, with our usual show. Until then, have a great day and have a great rest of your weekend.
And year.
Yeah. Okay. Oh, we did it. The uncommon show